Hello everyone, and welcome to the random roller coaster review for February of 2024. This time, we will be reviewing Superman the Ride at Six Flags New England. So let's just jump right into this. So let's start with some basic facts about Superman at Six Flags New England. The ride is an Intamin hypercoaster. A hypercoaster is a coaster between the heights of 200 and 299 feet. The ride maxes out at a max height of 208 feet with a drop of 221 feet, a top speed of 77 miles per hour, and is 5,400 feet in length. There are 9 cars to the train with 2 riders per row and 4 riders per car for a total of 36 riders. Although, when the ride had VR in 2016, the back row, the 5th car, was removed to make room for the VR equipment and has never been replaced. So let's start there with the trains. The trains are very similar to the other Intamin mega coasters as they are low to the track and very spacious. The front has the Superman logo on the front, and the trains throughout have the blue, red, and yellow color scheme of Superman. As for the restraints, though, they aren't great. Due to an accident that happened a few years ago, the ride went from having T-bars to what have been nicknamed the Intamin U-bricks. These are basically like a U with a brick for a lap bar. There are 2 metal bars coming up the sides of your legs with metal plates near the top, and just a giant brick of, I guess, plastic as the restraint. They are not comfortable and do not allow the ride to maximize the airtime it could have. So the trains are already a knocking point for me. As for the queue, you enter in through kind of a Metropolis-themed building with the big Superman the Ride logo on the front. You'll see a bank of lockers, and then you enter into the main queue portion. The main queue is a couple of cattle pen switchbacks before heading up to the base of the station with a massive covered area with some cutouts of Superman and villains with some explanations of their backstories before you ascend the stairs into the station where you will see the train parked, and on the back wall a massive Superman logo and the years in which the ride won awards. Although you'll notice that these years are older, as that was before the ride added the new U-brick restraint. As for on the ride itself, there is not a ton of theming. There are some cutouts of buildings and such that you are supposed to be flying through, as well as Superman logos, and you do fly through a couple of tunnels, although the back twister section does have some trees and foliage to make it a little bit more wild and feel as though you're coming close to the trees. And as you're climbing the lift, you get a very good view of the river nearby. So why don't we get into the actual ride portion of this review. After the ride dispatches from the station, it immediately engages and climbs the chain lift up the 209-foot-tall lift hill. If you are sitting on the left-hand side of the train, you'll get a very beautiful view of the Connecticut River to your left. And if you're sitting on the right side of the train, you will be able to look to the right and see an amazing view of the entire park. Also, while you're climbing the lift, the Superman theme plays. The chain on this lift is relatively fast. Not quite as fast as Mako, but definitely not as slow as some of the older Aero coasters. After cresting the lift hill, the train dives down the 221-degree drop into a massive tunnel at the mouth there is a massive cutout of the Superman logo. The drop itself does not feature all that much airtime due to, again, the terrible restraints the ride has. But the potential for airtime is there. The drop is also not as, I guess you could call it, flowy as some of the newer coasters, as it was not built with continuous banking or sloping. If you want more on that and other things of that nature, like the sloping styles and everything, go check out El Toro Ryan's channel. He does a lot of stuff and knows a lot more than me about the different technical sides of the coasters. After exiting the tunnel, the train ascends up into a massive camelback airtime hill. Now, this airtime hill does deliver a good amount of sustained floater airtime, but it is pretty weak overall. The train then pulls out and banks to the right and turns 180 degrees in a massive overhand turnaround. This turn doesn't do much. It is very similar to the hammerhead turn on Mako at SeaWorld Orlando, as it is just there to get the train turned around and heading back towards the station, as the train is now running parallel along that first massive camelback and the lift. The train then banks to the left and turns slightly before passing through cutouts of massive skyscrapers and dipping down a little bit, delivering what should be a nice pop of ejector airtime, but barely delivering mild floater on this element. As you pass through this dip, you will go through another large cutout of a building. The train then goes through two more massive camelback airtime hills that again do not deliver much more than some mild floater, and that is not very sustained. The train then dives down out of the second massive camelback through some cutouts of the Superman logo, or the shaping of it, and banks and turns slightly to the left while ascending. The train at the crest of the hill then whips from left to right and then dives down towards the ground in a massive twisting hill. This hill, again, delivers a small pop of floater airtime and a little bit of whip. The train then continues into a massive 360-degree helix that at the end rises up and goes through another massive twisted hill. The helix itself is relatively forceful, probably one of the most forceful moments on the ride, and this smaller twisted hill has, again, another small pop of airtime. After going through that switchback hill, which transfers the train from continuing right to left, the train goes through another massive 360-degree helix, and then ascends into another twisted hill, this time transitioning from left to right. Again, delivering another small pop of airtime and a little bit of whip. The helix does not deliver much in forces. The train then goes into a massive swooping right-hand turn through what is usually a fog-filled tunnel. This turn is another relatively forceful moment. This turn is also 180 degrees and sets you back towards the rest of the twister section, and these next couple of elements will be passing under some of the earlier twisted hills and over some of the earlier helixes. At the end of the helix, the train unbanks and dips down through some trim brakes before traversing two back-to-back smaller camelbacks and one more 90-degree turn into the very short final brake run. These airtime hills delivered two more small pops of airtime before the ride is over. Overall, Superman the Ride at Six Flags New England is a very overrated coaster for me. It is not very smooth and does not deliver the forces nor the airtime that everyone says it does. And I feel as though the ride has a pretty nasty shuffle to it. It's just not a very good ride. The restraints aren't comfortable, although the setting is quite nice. Overall, I would say Superman is a pretty mediocre ride and definitely not worth all the hype everyone gives it. Something else that I forgot to mention even in the January review was where the ride ranks in my personal overall rankings. So Superman the Ride, for me, ranks at number 88 out of the 232 coasters I've been on. So that's just to give you an idea of what I think of the ride. But that is all for this review. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next time on another adventure.